Many people have been asking if I'm going to cover Mortal Realms magazine. My answer? We'll see.
Toss a coin to your Big Mac for Mortal Realms magazine, for Mortal Realms magazine, oh.
How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dad here again today with another video for you. Today is the first in what I'm hoping is going to be 80 videos for the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Mortal Realms magazine. You may realise that I'm struggling to stop saying Conquest and Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. It just rolls off my tongue. But Warhammer Age of Sigmar Mortal Realms is the magazine I'm going to be covering in this series. And like I said, I hope it's 80 videos long. I've got the first magazine in hand. I've had it for a few days and I've managed to read through it, so I'm going to share my thoughts on it in much the same way that you may have seen on my channel I have done with the Conquest series over the 80 or 72, 73 issues we've had of that so far. Before we get started though, you may have had your interest piqued by that intro. I want to draw your attention to, in the description below, and I might pin a comment as well, there's going to be a link to my Patreon which I've just set up. In order to cover all 80 issues of Mortal Realms magazine, I really need your help. Age of Sigmar is not something that I'm massively interested in. I don't get enough time to play 40k, so I don't want to be starting playing another game. So follow the link to my Patreon below and check out the video there that'll explain everything for you. I need your help to cover the financial burden of Mortal Realms magazine if you want to see it on my channel. The miniatures I collect through the course of this magazine, some of them I'll be using for my own personal use, like conversions, converting them into 40k models and units. But there's going to be a lot of miniatures left over at the end, and what I'm planning on doing, I can't really say it in the Patreon video, but what I'm planning on doing is finding some way to give them away, and to hopefully a number of lucky winners at the end of the collection of magazines. So without further ado, here comes my run through of issue 1 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Mortal Realms magazine. Wow, it rolls off the tongue now. Onto the magazine. So, the front cover, we have Age of Sigmar, Shyish, the Realm of Death, and Your First Battle. We got 2 sets of miniatures, 6 dice, and a range ruler with this issue as well, which is absolutely fantastic. 13 miniatures in total, 3 Stonecast Sequitors, and 3... let me see what they're called. Chain Rasps. Sorry, 10 Nighthorn Chain Rasps. So yeah, we've got 13 miniatures in total. What I'll do now is put the pricing up here for you. So there's the price. It's a fantastic saving, as you can tell. I don't know, you may have realised, I don't know the price of Age of Sigmar models anywhere near as well as I know the price of 40k models. I imagine the 3 Sequitors, I imagine they're £10 easy to build kit, and the Chain Rasps, I imagine they're £10 to £15. So you're getting about £25 to £30 worth of models, something like that. But onto the magazine itself and the content of the magazine. There's no doubt in this first issue it's going to be a good saving, because the magazine only costs £2.99. So whatever the cost of the models, there's going to be a good saving there. So the first page, we've got the realms, the Age of Sigmar. The God King Sigmar has returned, his storm host poured forth to remove the taint of chaos from all 8 of the mortal realms. Though his forces have had many victories, the war is far from won, for Sigmar has many enemies. So the first page is an introduction into the world of the universe, if you like, of the Age of Sigmar, the Mortal Realms, if you like. And that moves on to the next page as well, where it talks you through how Sigmar, basically, over time, built up a force of the Mortal Realms' greatest warriors. So in their moment of, in their final moments, when it looked like they may be about to be killed, he snatched up their souls and then he moulded them into these massive heroic warriors that they are now, clad in this armour of the Stonecast Eternals. The Stonecast Eternals are shining warriors that strike on bolts of lightning hurled by the God King Sigmar himself. No foe can withstand their might, and their victories are many. If you've played 40k before, the Stonecast Eternals are basically the Space Marines of Age of Sigmar. Now, you can say that they are different all you like, but that is a massive misnomer. They're more or less exactly the same as the Space Marines, in my view. This is my view as a 40k player from the outside looking in. Or a 40k collector, at least, from the outside looking in. The Emperor and Sigmar share a lot of similarities, and albeit that the Emperor is a rotting carcass on a golden throne, Sigmar sits upon high, sending down his warriors, sending them out to reclaim the mortal realms and to tame the mortal realms, if you like. In much the same way that the Emperor did during the Great Crusade, he set out across the galaxy with his Space Marines to claim the galaxy for mankind. Sigmar's doing the same with the Stonecast Eternals. So there's a lot of parallels you can draw between the two games. And that, for me, personally, leaves a little bit of a... I don't want to say a bitter taste or a sour taste in my mouth, but it leaves it a little hollow for me, because they're basically rehashing the stories that have been used in Warhammer 40,000 and just tweaking them for a fantasy setting. That's the way it looks to me from the outside. I'm hoping, over the course of Mortal Realms magazine, I'll be proven wrong. And I'm hoping I can get a little bit more invested, at least in the lore of Age of Sigmar, than I am now. And you will too. Just to draw your attention to the box at the bottom page, the bottom right corner of this page, Sigmarites. Each Stormcast Eternal is armoured in Sigmarites, a magical living metal mined from Malus in Azir. Armour crafted from this metal can resist blows from even the sharpest blade. Their weapons are also made from this wondrous metal, and any who feel their touch will meet a swift death. On to the next page, we get to see a Stormhost in action. We've got some winged warriors of the Stormhost there. I'm sure we'll learn about them in a future issue, and some heroes in the foreground. And it talks about the Stormhost, so let's just read this. Stormcast Eternals are organised into Stormhosts. The exact number of Stormhosts is a mystery to all but Sigmar himself, but all of them have their own unique name and heraldry. Each Stormhost is made up of between 5 and 10,000 warriors. Whew. So that's like Legion size when you're comparing it to 40k. And each is a mighty army in its own right. Perhaps most famous of the Stormhosts are the golden armoured Hammers of Sigmar, who were the first Stormhosts to be created by the God King. And in the imagery above we can see the Hammers of Sigmar there. I think, yep, they're the ones with the hammer and the 2 lightning bolts come off with the blue and the gold armour. I think most of the images we're seeing in this first issue is the Hammers of Sigmar, to be fair. And then it goes on to Sequitors, and it says Sequitors are stern warriors schooled in the magical arts. They channel the power of storm through the magical weapons given to them by Sigmar, unleashing it with each swinging strike. Sequitors cannot cast spells like true mages, having only received basic training in the art of magic. So they're almost like low-rate librarians in 40k. I'm going to do a lot of comparing to 40k because that's what I know, basically. So I'm likely to do a lot of comparing to 40k through the course of this subscription, or through the course of these reviews and run-throughs. On to the next page, we get to see some of the war gear of the Sequitors. They've got a plume and crest, so that's nice. Enchanted robes. Sequitors are called upon to fight enemies who possess magical powers. Their robes are blessed by Sigmar himself, protecting the warriors beneath from all manner of deadly curses and hexes. And they've got spirit flasks, which are like magical grenades, basically. Consecrated pendants. Sigmar's warriors often carry these pendants, which help to protect them from harm. And then there's the Storm Smite Great Mace, which is the massive mace that these Sequitors wield. This is probably the most impressive thing about these Sequitors for me, the fact that they can wield these and not just fall over. This mighty weapon can crush enemies with its incredibly powerful strikes. On to the next page, we get to look at the Nighthaunts for the first time. Raised from the dead by Nagash's magical experiments, the Nighthaunt have burst forth from grave and barrow. Their ice-cold claws and scything blades have already carved a path of death and terror across the mortal realms. Ice-cold fear heralds their arrival. Only ruined corpses mark their passing. That's Lord Exorcist Winter. On to the next page, we get to see some lovely imagery of the Nighthaunts here, and a Nighthaunt host. From cairn, crypt and barrow, the Nighthaunts spill forth, descending upon the mortal realms. The tortured souls scream out for the release as they tear unfortunate mortals apart. And then onto, with the Nighthaunt, a grouping of Nighthaunt like that is called a procession. Nighthaunt's armies are called processions. These processions emit a wave of terror that erodes the will of their enemies until they are frozen by fear. And then it's onto the Nighthaunt Chain Rasps. Now this is the unit we get to build with this first issue. The Chain Rasps are the most numerous of the spirits that make up the Nighthaunt processions. These bitter geists are created from the souls of the most vicious prisoners to have ever lived in the mortal realms. In death they wear the chains that bound them in life, howling in misery and anger as they drag their bonds. They are held together only by their hatred for those who still live. So, the thing with the Stormcasts is, and comparing them to the Nighthaunts, they're both like undead, essentially. This is my somewhat limited understanding of it. Sigmar took the souls of the greatest warriors of mankind and the greatest heroes of mankind. He took them in their moment of death, and he moulded them almost in his image into these magnificent warriors. Whereas Nagash raises the dead souls of criminals, of all the bad guys from the mortal realms, and uses them in his army. He forces them to fight for him. So it's basically two armies of the dead, and there's something sinister about that for me. Something more sinister than heroic in the Stormcasts. That's the way I see it, and it's, again, you can draw parallels there, in my opinion, with 40k, because Space Marines aren't just these exemplars of humanity. They're changed beyond recognition from human. Whilst they may look human physically, they're not human mentally anymore. They have very little humanity left, in the same way that Stormcasts have very little humanity left. So I just think it's an interesting parallel to draw. Some people would disagree with me about the Space Marines on that, and I'm sure many people more informed than me would disagree with me about the Stormcasts on that. But that's just the way I see it thus far. On to the next page, we get to learn a little bit more about some individual chain rasps. The Vengeful Dead, Kreth Soulvoid. Kreth was once a soldier who murdered his commander in return for riches, only to die in chains. So, another a fine example of a criminal there that's now fighting for Nagash's hosts. Gallowgast. Gallowgast's mortal life has been lost in the midst of time, but his deeds as a vengeful spirit are well known. 1,000 mortals have fallen to his pitted, rusted blade. And then there's the Grave Maiden and Yorick the Wicked. They all sound like terrible, terrible spirits. On to the next page, we get how to build Sequitors and Chain Rasps. And it's 4 pages, or 3 pages rather in total, not 4 pages. 3 pages in total, which, it's quite clear instructions. They're easy to build models. You're looking at £20 to £30 worth of models, like I said earlier. And they're easy to build, so most of them come in 2, maybe 3 parts. And it's pretty straightforward. You can even build them without glue. They've all got the pegs and the female to male peg sections that you can just push together. So they're all push fit models that you can build without glue. But if you've got a subscription in your first delivery, you will get some plastic glue anyway, and you can use that glue to secure them together properly. One thing to do though first, if you are going to glue them, just dry fit them first, make sure the pegs fit in nicely. If perhaps they're not quite going together, there's a bit of a gap between the front section and the back section, or the left section and the right section, then maybe trim the peg down a little bit with the clippers you get in your first delivery, and then try it again, and then if that fits better, stick your glue on then and get a nice secure snug fit. On to the next page, it's how to paint Citadel miniatures. Painting Citadel miniatures is one of the most creative and enjoyable parts of the Warhammer Age of Sigmar hobby, bringing the models to life on the tabletop. Read on to find out more about the fantastic simple Citadel paint system and how you will use it to paint your models. So there's no paint that comes with this issue, so we can't really talk too much about painting Citadel miniatures beyond an introduction there that we get on that page. But it's at least a mention that we're going to be painting them in the future, so you know what you're getting into before you buy the next issue. And then the eve of battle. So the eve of battle, they set the scene with a little a setup of what gaming is like in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Warhammer Age of Sigmar is a tabletop wargame for 2 players, each of whom act as general for an army of Citadel miniatures, commanding their collection of models in battle against their friends. Here we give an overview of how fun gaming can be to get you ready for the first game. Wow, I read that really badly. Never mind. Grave danger. The ancient mistrust between Sigmar and Nagash has festered for centuries and is now finally erupting into war. In the wake of the Necroquake, spirits rise from the grave to haunt the realms of men. Stonecast Eternals are the first line of defence, battling the risen dead with grim determination. Anastasia Starstrike and her band of Sequitors have been sent to secure the ruins of an ancient temple. Ahead lie the broken remains of structures surrounded on all sides by shattered headstones, ruined tombs and forgotten barrows. As the Sequitors step foot upon the temple floor, the dead rise. A chain rasp horde rises from the temple stones. Chains rattle as they descend upon the Sequitors. So that sets the scene nicely with a little bit of narrative flair. And it talks you through the whole idea of attacking your opponent's models, basically. So what you'll need in this, it gives you the setup there. Lay your battle mat on the flat surface. Place your dice and range ruler next to the mat for use when you need them. Grab a coin or some other small item to use as a marker. Set up your Sequitors and chain rasps on the battle mat as indicated. Choose who will be the Sequitor player and who will be the chain rasp player. And then the Sequitors attack is the first bit. The Sequitors pile in first. It talks you through the 3-inch pile-in move that you get in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. In order to attack, Sequitor's base must end up touching a chain rasp's base. And then it's got some lovely diagrams for you to follow there as well. And then it talks you through the weapons. Each Sequitor that has a base touching a chain rasp's base gets to attack. Sequitors get 2 attacks with their Storm Smite Mauls. Pick up 2 dice for each Sequitor that can attack. So if you've got 3 bases touching, you pick up 6 dice and you roll them. And then you get to hit roll, you remove models, so any models, so I'll talk you through the whole thing. Roll all of your dice rather. Check the score on each dice with to hit 3+. 3+ means that each dice that has a number lower than 3 fails and does not hit. Remove any that scored 1 or 2. Keep any that scored 3, 4, 5 or 6. Remove models. Count the number of total successful hits. Dice that scored 3, 4, 5 or 6. The chain rasp player must remove 1 chain rasp model for each successful hit. Remove those models from the game by taking them off the battle mat, setting them to one side, and then it's the chain rasp's turn to attack. The attacks happen in much the same way. You get the 3-inch pile-in move. The chain rasp weapons, they get 2 attacks with those weapons. You pick up 2 dice. However, the to-hit roll is different for the chain rasps with their weapons. They only hit on a 4+. But if you can get enough chain rasps into base contact, you're going to be rolling a lot of dice anyway. 4 plus means that each dice that has a number lower than 4 fails and does not hit. Get rid of any that score 1, 2 or 3. Keep any that score 4, 5 or 6. You've got a 50-50 chance of hitting basically. So if you roll say 6 dice, you're probably going to hit with 3. Add up the total number of successful hits. Secretors are heavily armoured and hard to kill. The Secretor player removes 1 Secretor model for every 2 successful hits. Effectively, that's like saying you've got 2 wounds. If there is an odd number of hits, place a counter next to a Secretor. That's what that marker was for earlier. If you just got a penny or a small token of some sort, place that next to a Secretor if 1 wound is stripped from one of them but it wasn't completely killed, or she. After the successful Chain Rasp hit, the Secretor must be removed. And playthrough, the Chain Rasp player, it just gives you exactly the same sort of playthrough there. After the Secretor player has removed any models, the fight sequence begins again. So it goes back to the Secretors there and then to the Chain Rasps until one side has all of their models removed. So, coming in the next Mortal Realms issue, we have got some Grave Maidens, the Mirmorn Banshees, sorry, not Grave Maidens, Mirmorn Banshees in the next issue, plus a pot of paint. It is base paint known as Corax White. And read about Nighthaunt, so we get to learn a little bit more about Nighthaunt, and new playthrough game. And in issue 3, we are getting Stonecast reinforcements, read about Stonecast Eternals. So the Stonecast reinforcements are Castigators and a Griffhound. It's a little hard to read on this back cover, as you'll see behind me. It doesn't say what the model is in the big writing, it just says it in the picture of the front cover of said issue. Anyway, a few exciting issues ahead. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and please remember to check out my Patreon. If you do want to see me cover Mortal Realms to completion, then please consider subscribing, or donating to my Patreon, whichever tier you can afford. There's a $1 tier, $5 tier and a $12 tier. I'll let you choose based on what you can afford, of course. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope to do another 79 videos like this, maybe with a bit more smooth flair than in this video. But thanks very much for watching, and I will see you on the battlefield.